Okay, Seneca the Minor, chapter 10 of book 4. It is closer to the ground, or the air, or the more closer it is, the thicker it is. We have correlatives for quo and hoc with comparatives. So all the air, the closer it is to the ground, the thicker it is. Just as in the way that in water, in all humor, in all moisture or things that are liquid, the dregs, the fakes, or whatever you pronounce it, it's at the imma, it's at the bottom. Thus so, in the air, the most thickest part, which there is, decident, it sinks down. Autem. Moreover, now already, it's been proved that everything, in which is, what do we got? Material that's more thicker and solider, this keeps or custodes, the S probatum takes the infinitive, keeps it more fidelius, more loyal or trustworthy or whatever, the heat that's been received. So the more thick and solid the material, the more fidelity there is in keeping the heat. Editio air. So the air, editus means up high, the more higher it goes, the more longer or further it is, it recedes from the colluvies of the earth. It's like the wastewater and polluted stuff, etc. I think it's 5th declension. And thus it's more sincere and purer. So the air gets away from all the rubbish and it becomes purer and cleaner or something. Itaque, and so it doesn't retain the sun, or the heat of the sun, the things come from the sun. But as if through an inane, through an emptiness, all this is transmitted. And for this reason it becomes less warm. Okay, so we're talking about the air up high, doesn't retain the heat as it's going through emptiness. There are certain people who say contrarily, 11.1, that the cacaminas of mountains, the peaks of mountains, these ought to be more warmer, another comparative, on account of that they are closer, proporia, to the sun, dative. Who to me seem to err or go wrong? Because the Apennines and the Alps and other known because of their special altitude in these mountains. So the Alpines, the Alps and other mountains, because of their height, they are thought to grow, they are thought to climb up in altitude in such a way that the magnitude of them, they're able to feel, these same people, these people are able to feel the vicinity or the nearness of the sun. So they think the higher you go up the mountain, it ought to be more hot because the sun's closer. 11.2. These are high as long as you compare them to us. At vero, but truly, when you look at the universe, the universe known to man, so a terrestrial world, it is manifest the lowliness of all of it, the humilitas, it's all very low down. Inter se, so we're talking about mountains. The mountains amongst themselves, conquering are conquered. Some mountains are bigger than others, it's literally saying. But nothing atolatos, nothing is lifted up into such an amount, that looks like a vowel of the adverb, that even the portion maximus, the greatest point in collation or comparison of the totius, none of it, there's all of it, any of it. So nothing is compared when even the biggest parts of these mountains are even compared to the totius, the whole world. So all these mountains, even if some are bigger than others, compared to the world, they're still small. Quaestiones, that unless it were this way, said, we would not say that the whole orb of the world is a ball, which refutes that story that came about in the 18th century that people used to think the world was flat. Anyway, 11.3, the proprietary or the nature of a ball is that there's a certain roundness with equality. The roundness is all the same all around. Moreover, however, except this flatness or equality, which you see on a illusory ball, that's like a soccer ball or something. Non-molten, not much. These commissuras and rimmers are cracks. Commissuras are things that are sent out and joined together. So if you make a ball, there are little fissures in it and bits where they join. So these do not harm that much. Knockout means harm. So that less equal to itself are said from all the other parts. So the ball's round. If it's man-made, it's not perfectly round because it's stitched together, but it doesn't harm it any less to be called from wherever you look at it, if you understand what I'm saying. How in this ball, nothing, none of these intervals, let's say plural, officiant. So ob and officio mean to block. So there's nothing on this ball with all these seams, you might want to say, in intervals, that block the appearance of its roundness, if its rotundness. Thus, ne quidem, not even in the universal orb of the world do these high mountains do anything. Now, I saw a counter to the flat earthers that had a picture of Everest in comparison to the world, and it was so small it looked smooth. So I guess that's what Seneca's saying as well, that all these mountains don't really interfere with the baldness nature of the world. Anyway, of which the altitude is consumed, the altitude of these mountains is consumed in comparison to the whole world, Todius Mundi. Okay, Daily Dictionary. Collatio, things that are collected or in combination. And here's another meaning, it means comparison. So there you go. 11.4. He who says a higher mountain because it receives the sun closer to the sun, because the high mountain's closer to the sun that receives sunlight, it ought to be more calories or what you get when you burn a lot of heat, if you want to remember that. It ought to receive, it ought to be warmer because it's closer to the sun. This same person is able to say then that a longer man more quickly than a small man ought to be warmed. So a tall man ought to be warmed quicker than a short man. And the head more quickly than the feet ought to be warmed. At quiz. But whoever estimates the world by its measurement or size and thinks that the terrain holds a little puncture of time, a place of it's a temporal place, but also a worldly place. So anyone who judges the world by the measurements and thinks the land or the earth is holding a place, you should understand that nothing in this ball, if that's what the female there is able to thus emanate, to go so high, iter ut correlatives, that it senses the celestial regions more. So there's no point or puncture on the earth where it's so high that it's more influenced by the heavens, I guess, than anywhere else. As if, as it accelerates, as it goes, as it's closer to Ilus, that. So that's what it's saying. So it's just comparing mountains on earth are still closer to the earth than to the heavens, even as they go up closer to it. 11.5. Isti montes, these mountains which we look up and see, suspicamus, and their vertices, the peaks, which are obsesside, covered with eternal niv, snow, nonetheless, they're still imo at the very bottom. And indeed, they're closer, a mountain is closer from the sun than a plain or a valley. But just thus how one hair is thicker than another hair. So we're saying that a mountain compared to a valley, that's the bottom. The mountain would be the top, campus would be the flat, and the valley would be the bottom. These mountains are still closer to the valley than as one hair is to another in thickness. For in this way, also, a tree, what have we got? is closer to another tree, it is said, than in the vicinity of the heavens or the sky or something. Quotes false. So it's really false, he's saying here, because amongst small things there is not able to be a great difference, except when you're comparing, while you're comparing, making differences into them, between them. When it comes to a comparison of huge bodies, there's no difference in how, it's got to be a comparative, how one is bigger than the other, because even if there is a great difference, nevertheless it's minimal. And so if you understand that, because he was comparing hair to hair, so amongst small things you're not able to have any major difference. You can only really compare them between themselves. When it comes to comparing big things like the sun and mountains, I suppose there's really no difference in which is bigger than another. So mountain to another, or the depth of a valley to another, there's not much difference. Okay, that's it.